plan, Commander?
Keep this Star Destroyer safe. The rebels can't learn about Operation Cinder.
So you're probably thinking, right about now, that I'm going to go off on some rant about why EA doesn't deserve the Star Wars franchise because of the loot box fiasco. We're all aware of it at this point, and I'm sure a lot of people feel that EA needs to lose the Star Wars franchise because of this. And that's a perfectly valid reason. In fact, it could be the only reason that EA could lose the Star Wars franchise. But that's not why I believe EA doesn't deserve Star Wars. Hey guys, I'm Morphologist, and in this video, I'm going to tell you a bit about why I believe EA doesn't deserve the Star Wars franchise. So to understand my reasoning, we first have to talk a little bit about the gaming industry and the direction that it is going. EA is really only one of many companies which have started to introduce microtransactions, and even before that, DLCs, into virtually every product that they release. And there's a really good reason for that. It's more profitable, and profits have become more important than creating a good product simply because the gaming industry is so incredibly profitable. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars being spent by consumers to purchase video games. And so investors have now stepped in and begun to invest in these large development companies and have started to demand growth and profit. So inevitably, somewhere along the way, somebody figured out that creating campaign-based games was not profitable. People purchased the game, and that was the only amount of money and payoff that developers were getting. What that essentially means is that although developers were able to cover their costs and attain profit from the release of a game, continuous growth was much harder to obtain. Enter Andrew Wilson, CEO of Electronic Arts, who virtually turned that company around and set record profits for the gaming industry. His idea was to turn gaming into a service and not a product. What that means is that games continually generate profit after they've been released through DLCs and, more recently, microtransactions. And that's where you can attribute all of the growth that EA has experienced the past few years. But of course, and that's why I'm making this video, this has taken its toll on the gaming industry, and leads me to the reason why I believe that EA simply does not deserve the Star Wars franchise. And that's because they can't make a good campaign and they don't want to. It's apparent to anybody who's played the campaign that it starts off extremely promising. The basic premise, not to go into too many spoilers here, is that we get to see the events of the original trilogy through the eyes of Commander Versio, who leads Inferno Squadron, that is a Special Forces commando unit of the Imperial Navy. Now, I was really excited about this because if you've read the book Lost Stars, you'll see that there was an interesting perspective of most Imperials that wasn't as dark or evil as a lot of people may believe. Imperials were just normal people. They were occupants of occupied worlds who may have not had a choice or just wanted to seek employment, and unfortunately had to suffer the consequences when the rebellion started blowing up all their ships. And this, of course, created a situation where some people maybe just hated the rebellion because they had killed their best friends or family. So the book Lost Stars very much explores this idea, explores the idea that the division between the Empire and Rebellion wasn't so black and white as the movies would have us believe. Do you think the janitor on the Death Star really was all that bad of a guy? Maybe he just needed a buck to feed his family. And he died, along with millions of other Imperials who were on the Death Star when it exploded. So clearly there's a ton of fuel for Versio to hate, absolutely hate the Rebellion. So when Versio suddenly switches sides, not even halfway through the campaign, we're talking super early, it's jarring, it just doesn't make sense, and it's clear to me that the rest of the game was designed by committee and not by a singular group of creative individuals trying to create a compelling and canon Star Wars story. So it would not at all surprise me if in fact the story at some point during the development process was curtailed heavily because they just didn't want to spend the money on developing the campaign. Because as I've stated earlier, there isn't money in making a campaign, a story for a Star Wars game according to EA, because multiplayer is where all the money's at. So of course, that's where development is focused. I mean, I really want you guys to think about just how good the story could have been if they had focused just solely on the interaction between Versio and her father, like the original trilogy was focused on Luke and Vader. The meat of the story should have been focused on Versios coming to terms with the fact that the Empire was not as righteous as she had originally believed. But at the same time, she would be conflicted because the rebellion also has its issues, what with blowing up all her friends and potentially killing family members. It's the struggle that would have been extremely compelling. And finally, it builds to a confrontation with her father at the end. That's how it should have gone. It should not have been a Star Wars theme park. The campaign as it sits currently virtually adds nothing to the canon. It does nothing. It could have been better, and it's only 4 hours long. I know EA can do better than that, but they don't want to spend the money because it's not profitable. And that's why EA does not deserve to have the Star Wars franchise, because the Star Wars franchise and fans demand good stories, not 4-hour theme park shorts, but a full and really fleshed out story with great characters that we can fall in love with. That's what I want. Not some propped up piece of garbage that's been over advertised, that tries to sell me more things on top of the $80 I've already spent, that tries to nickel and dime my experience that I want to have with my friends. No, Star Wars is better than that, and we definitely as consumers deserve better. How do we get what we want? We speak with our wallets and we don't buy this game. We demand better, and then we give our money to more deserving developers who have actually put love into the development process as a whole, not just in certain parts. Because it's clear to me that DICE, at least some people there, did care about Star Wars. They lovingly detailed every part of it and they wanted to make it authentic. And I have to compliment the voice actors too. They did a great job. I have no qualms about the acting in the campaign. So that's why I hate to see all of their great efforts undermined by EA and Andrew Wilson's frankly incompatible development template, which destroyed any hope of a good story before they even began. So what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down in the comment section below. I'm looking forward to interacting with you guys. This has been Morphologist, and I hope you'll join me in trying to make Star Wars games as good as they clearly deserve to be.